Yo, what up? It's Tug from We Make Best. Better hook you guys up with my classic constructed Kano Decktech. So let's get straight into it. I just edged my Kano deck to be as consistent and fast as possible for getting the combo. That combo being Aether Wildfire into any burn spell into Blazing Aether. And I also wanted to maximize the damage output I could produce on my own turn. So that was a thought process going into my deck. I'll start it off with the equipment at the top. So the main 5 that you'll be running into most matchups is Crucible. So this just buffs your arcane damage over AB to land your valuable on hits with Lesson, Spindle, all of that. In the headpiece, I always run Ragamuffin's Hat. This card just single-handedly makes the combo as consistent as possible. It actually has a lot more lines than just that though. You can actually use it to just straight up swap reds to blues in your hand, or swap 2 blocks to 3 blocks whenever you need it. You can also just filter the top card of your deck by using the bottoming option as well that's on it. And then most importantly, I actually see it also as a second Storm Striders of the deck, in the sense that you can actually do a mini combo off just the hat alone, letting you save your boots and do a way bigger combo later in the game. Next I run into most matchups is Tunic. Your big combo turns usually cost 10 to 13 resources, so getting that extra resource from Tunic is extremely vital. Also, the Tunic counter is actually your game plan into certain matchups. So in the long, slower games where you're blocking a lot, you can really start to abuse that one Tunic counter every turn just to slowly claw back, get some tempo and stuff. Also, the 1 block on it is actually super vital in this deck, because if they present exact lethal on your kill turn when you're going to go for the big combo, you can actually just float the resource, block with the Tunic, and then force them have to play another card on top of what they've already done, meaning they've got less resources to AB your combo with. Next in the arms, we got Metacarpus nodes. It's just a Crucible on steroids for 1 turn. On combo turn, this card can usually increase your combo damage by 5 to 9 damage, depending on how many pumps. And then lastly, we got Storm Striders. This card's just the best combo starter that you got in the deck. 1 resource to let you play any card at instant speed. 90% of the time, it's going to be Wildfire from your arsenal for your big turn. Storm Striders are probably the reason I see Kano starting on 30 health being actually kind of fair, since it essentially works as having an extra turn over the opponent. Because most of the time, you're going to be on your own turn presenting an Aether Spindle red pumped for 5. Your opponent has to block it somehow with any amount of cards. Then you go straight to their turn after you've drawn up, and they've just got less cards than you. So if they want to play anything, they have to run the risk of dying just from the mere presence of Stormies being on your board. So that's why that card's goated. Then I also got some sideboard equipment. I run Spellfire Cloak. You don't have to. I just run this because at my local game store, there's a lot of fires and stuff, and I find it really good into the fire matchup if I have to take the draw. Usually I'll take the play and then run Tunic, but if you take the draw and take Tunic, you're not actually going to survive long enough to get to that 3rd counter reasonably. That's when I have the Spellfire Cloak. And then I've actually got the Waning Moon and Illuvian Constellas. So these 2 cards come in together into the wizard matchups. They kind of just change your entire game plan of being a combo oriented deck into a more tempo deck, and they straight up just carry your wizard matchups. I've actually found that Kano into Icelander, when you're running these, is just, it's like a 80-20 I'd say in Kano's favor, like not even exaggerating. Against skilled Icelanders too. Like the old play pattern was you would activate your Crucible and then they would be able to respond and give you a Frostbite as the bare minimum, and then usually that could stop you from being able to play your Voltic Bolt or your Spindle or something just off that. So that was a really bad interaction that we had with them. But by bringing in Waning Moon, now you're able to just present the Aether Spindle or Sonic Boom first. They'll probably respond to you with something trying to disrupt the next things you play, but now you have options. Now you can activate your Waning Moon in response to that. You can activate Kano in response to that without running the risk of being disrupted. So it just opens up the lines for you to be able to really handle the Icelanders. Actually, really hard matchup for Icelander to win. But yeah, I think every Kano deck should always run these. So that's it for the equipment. Now onto the main deck. So I actually run a 54 card main deck. So that's 12 reds, 9 yellows, and 33 blues. These cards make up the foundation of my deck. Very rarely I'll cut any of these 54 cards when presenting my deck. Instead, I use the last extra 6 slots to add in cards that aid my gameplay into whoever I'm versing. So really quickly to go over the blues, I won't go through all of them because I find blues are all dependent on your playstyles. So there's no right or wrong answer. As long as your blue is cheap, it deals arcane damage and it blocks 3. Usually that's good enough to be in your Kano deck. Some people like to cut the 2-cost blues because they're too expensive on the combo turn, but I like to run them because I'm much happier casting a Voltic Bolt or Scolding off the top than I am casting like a Snapback or something something like that. So just for that simple reason is why I keep those in. But like I said, there's no right or wrong answer when it comes to the blues. It's all up to you. Next I have the stock standard 9 yellows that you'll find in every Kano deck. These are some of your best cards in the deck. So first we got Lessons. It's probably the best card in your deck. It's a tutor, so you can grab any card out of your deck, put it on top, and then probably play it in the same turn. It's a combo piece with Wildfire, since it will guarantee your Blazing Aether on the top of your deck. You can chain mini combos off of Lessons alone, just going Lessons into Blazing. Very strong line into people that don't want to AB. It hits for 4 over Crucible, so works through AB3, and then it also just costs 1, so when you do go into the Waning Moon matchups, it's one of the more efficient cards. Off of 1 blue, you can just go Lesson into Waning Moon. And just the amount of options and lines you have just when you draw this card, and it's just sitting there in your hand, is just insane. Like, that's why it's easily one of the best cards in the deck, if not the best. Next is Sonic Boom. It's just the mainstay in Kano. Hits for 4 with Crucible over AB3. If it does hit at all, usually you can get 4 to 6 resources for free, since it essentially is a Kano activation and cast that spell for free. This is one of the best cards to do small value combos off by just going Wildfire into Sonic Boom, just to chunk opponents and take all the tempo from them. Also keep in mind of what I said about my blues, how I like my 2 cost blues. So those better blues also increase like the chance of me hitting something better off my Sonic Booms. So that's another reason why I like Voltic Bolts and Scoldings as my blues. But yeah, also just pitches for 2 and blocks for 3. Like, it's just too good not to run. Then we got Tome of Fiendol. 1 resource, draw 2. Can never be bad in a Kano deck. But the thing with Tome is it's actually secretly the best card in your deck into a lot of matchups. So in the slower matchups like Oldhim, Dory, Control Dash, stuff like that, you're actually able to Arsenal this card, not block the opponent's turn, and then just use Tunic to cast Tome from Arsenal. This lets you draw up to 6 cards in your hand, gain 6 life, and 100% of the time this just swings the tempo in your favor in the game. Usually you use those 6 cards to activate Kano a couple times, just start blasting them in the face. 6 cards usually means there's a combo piece in there as well to place in your arsenal after the Tome as well. Yeah, it's just all around just a brick house in certain matchups. When you actually think about it for like what the Tome's actually doing you, it's like 1 card, 1 resource, it's gain 6 life, deal 8 to 12 damage, and find a combo piece all in 1 card. That's what I mean when I'm saying that it's like one of your best cards in certain matchups. So yeah, shout out my boy Tome of Fiendol. Then next I have the standard 12 best reds that you want to see every game. That's 3 Aether Spindle reds, 3 Tome of the Aether Winds, 3 Wildfires, and 3 Blazing Aethers. First Spindle, that's up there with one of the best cards in the deck. Just 5 damage with Crucible, so it will always hit, and it must be blocked by the opponent, because if the opponent ever lets a Kano player opt 5, I'm confident to say that the game is pretty much over right there on the spot. But then the other thing is this card actually doubles up as a pseudo combo piece as well, since you can Wildfire into Spindle and then opt like 10, and if you got the resources to activate Kano afterwards, you can start producing like some insane stacks, like Kanoing into a Tome, draw 2 blues, Kano again into Boom, into Blazing, stuff like that. So you can really get your highest damage outputs on the Wildfire Spindle turns. But keep in mind, you can potentially whiff if you're unlucky, so just be mindful of that. Next, stock standard 3 Tome of the Aether Wind. This card is essentially Pot of Greed, just 0 resource, draw 2, so initial card advantage off the bat. It's one of the cards that lets Kano be able to have 1 card hand, so you can usually just block with 3 or 4 cards if this is in your arsenal, and then just cast this, draw 2, and then still be able to do a little something. It can be searched off of Lessons. It's a very strong combo extender if you find it off the top from Kano randomly. It's super versatile, but what's super underrated is actually the buff arcane. I feel like I don't see enough Kano players using this option. I find myself actually using the buff arcane a lot more than drawing in the earlier stages of the game, just to like poke the opponent down, go a bit more taller and stuff like that. Next, I'll talk about Wildfire and Blazing together. These cards are pretty much the reason you play Kano. Casting Wildfire, any spell into Blazing Aether is usually 30 plus damage minimum. Wildfire by itself is 18 damage for 2 resources on your opponent's turn, so that's why that card's good. But it's also just, if you find 2 at an awkward time, sending it for 5 on your own turn is like nothing to scoff at. Card's always very good like that. Blazing's a little bit more of a brick, like it feels really bad, it can get stuck in your arsenal and stuff like that. But the good thing is, when you're playing for your value combos and stuff, this is just the card that you want to see. Like, this is the card you want to hit off your Sonic Booms after Wildfires and stuff like that, so always got to run 3 of. Amazing when it's good, like game winning when it's good, but sometimes it can be a brick, so care for that. So that's it for the main deck. Let's get into the spicy bit of my deck tech to show you how my Kano list is a lot different to most that I see. Since I only have a 54 card main deck, I like to set up my sideboard cards as the best like 6 card packages to bring into any matchup, just to min-max my win rate into anything. I did this while keeping in mind cards that are good into multiple matchups so I can value them a bit higher. So I'll go over my packages and kind of explain them a little bit. So first, my little value combo strat package. 1 Chain Lightning, 1 Potion of Deja Vu, and 1 Cindering Foresight. I like to bring these cards in against high AB opponents that we can't just do 1 combo and kill them on the spot. Usually these games are much slower, giving us time to set up these cards, and then any small window the opponent gives me, usually I'll pop my Potion or my Cindering and just hit them with a small value combo to put them to a very uncomfortable health total early, which usually ends up in the opponent having to play even more passively than they were before. If you don't know how to use the Potion, really quick, it's just you can pitch the cards to Kano that you want to cast, and then in response to the Kano activation, you actually crack your Potion to put that card on top. Now we let the Kano activation resolve, banishing the card, letting us cast into end of turn, and hopefully having some extra resources with that as well. So yeah, usually I pay attention to what my opponent's pitching on my turn and their turn. So if they give me a tell that they've only got like a red or yellow left in their hand, usually I'll just pop this off to try and chunk them for like 12 to 20-ish damage nice and early. Save my boots for the big combo later down the stage anytime they want to overextend. So yeah, I'll use the Cindering and the Pop as you could call those pseudo Storm Striders as well, but I'll bring the Chain Lightning in because that's one of the cards you want to see in combination with those cards, as it's not only 3 damage by itself, but it will actually let you cast another card as an instant from your hand for free. So usually if you're popping your Potion of Deja Vu and you're casting a Wildfire into this, it will let you play like another Blazing out of your arsenal or from your hand or something. So it's nuts like that. Next package I have in these cards is I got 3 red Snapback, 1 Chain Lightning, 1 Scalding Rain, and 1 Aether Dart. And this is like my race package. I'll bring these 6 cards in whenever I'm against aggro. The main idea in these cards is minimizing 2 costs but maximizing damage. So we want to minimize the 2 costs just to help the combo be more consistent and letting us not brick on it by not having enough resources, and just presenting the most damage to be able to race them to put them to kill range before we die, and also just being able to strip the cards out of their hand to really hurt their offensive turns and save a lot of life by being offensive. So the Chain, already spoke on it, but I like to use it in these matchups as a nice search target off of Lessons. So just going Lessons, finding Chain, Kano, play the Chain with the 1 floating, and then let me be able to cast anything else. And then next, the 1 Scalding Rain and 1 Aether Dart, just pretty much as a nice one-of search targets for my Lessons. I really highly suggest people start running 1 Scalding Rain red in their main, because it just lets your Lesson hit for 7 to 8 damage, even through AB3. So a big line that I like to do into Briar and stuff is Crucible Lesson, have 1 floating off the blue, they AB3 it, they still take 1, I can just go search for Scalding Rain, Kano it off the top and use the 1 floating, they're just Scalding Rain. Super efficient combo, super good. And since it works through AB3 and they're still taking 5 damage, like it's just a super good case for us. And then the same goes for the Aether Dart. Sometimes you don't have that extra 1 resource floating, so I'll just go grab an Aether Dart, shoot him for 3. And then these 2 cards also work super well with the next card I'm going to talk about, which is the 3 Snapbacks. I'm about to have a little bit of a rant here, but this is low-key one of the most versatile cards in Kano, and I don't see why more people aren't running 3 of in their decks. This card is just never bad to see. At worst, it's 4 damage with Crucible, which is honestly a fine rate. You're happy to just Arsenal it since it's impossible to get stuck in there. It combos with any card in your deck. You don't mind seeing it in your hand on your combo turns, since you can just cast it as an instant after Wildfire. Also, running 3 of Snapbacks makes sense because you actually want to see multiple of them in your hand, since you can just cast them all at instant speed off of each other, and then them being only a 1 cost, so they're good into the Waning Moon matchups on top of all that. And they also just give Kano the go wide option, like letting you present 7 to 10 damage when paired with your main cards like Spindle and Sonic and stuff like that. But then none of that's even the best part. The best part is on your Tome of Fiendel turns, like drawing up to 5 or 6 cards usually means you'll find a couple Snapbacks. All you got to do with that is just Kano, find a wizard card, which is pretty much any card, shoot it at the opponent and just unload all the Snapbacks on them as well. Like this lets you essentially present 10 to 12 damage guaranteed on your Tome of Fiendel turns with absolutely no downside. I don't think there is a downside to not be running 3 Snapbacks in your list. So yeah, thank you for coming to my TED Talk about Snapbacks. Hopefully I see some more on people's lists. But back to the packages. So my next one, I have a Go Tall package, I like to call it. So this is into your high AB like Oldhim and stuff like that, where I'll just be running 2 Stir the Aether Winds, 2 Fork Lightnings, and then I'll bring in 2 Scalding Rains as well. To be noted, I only like running 2 Stirs and 2 Forks maximum, because it's really bad if I see 2 Stirs in my hand at the same time, since not only it blocks 2 but it's cost 2, so it's really clunky to actually play and a card after. And the same goes for Fork. But with that said, Stir, it's just a house when paired with Fork Lightning obviously, but then also it's super good with Spindle, Sonic Boom, Wildfire, or even Lesson, just to go over the top of the opponent's AB and just hit those valuable on hits. And if they don't AB your stirred card, then usually they'll put them straight in the combo range, so super strong. Forked, mostly just an extra card to combo with stirs when you need it, but it's also just straight up 6 damage with Crucible, so never disappointed to cast a Forked at him even without stir. I'll talk a little bit more on Scalding Rains. So I see it as a less clunky Voltic Bolt, like I said before, and just works way better than Voltic Bolt in my deck specifically, because it works better with the snapbacks, the lessons, and now it's even good with the stir to let us play a nice 3-card hand. Also a very underrated thing, in certain matchups where you got to play for your Tunic counter, Scalding Rains have very high value on letting you just have a 1-card hand. So now you can just activate Tunic and then Scalding Rain them for 4, because 4 damage is nothing to scoff at. That if they don't AB that usually will put them pretty close, if not into combo range. And then if you get a card out of them for a Tunic counter and 1 card, that's just a huge win for you. Next I got a little Dromar package. So Dromar is one of the harder matchups for Kano, although it's now becoming a lot easier since I see a lot of them are starting to cut sand covers and oases to some extent. But with that in mind, I bring in 3 red Aether Dart, 3 red Singed, and 2 stirs to come in. So 3 darts, pair this with Crucible, now you're able to kill the Mires, and the Mires are a must kill for Kano to even have a chance at winning. But the main thing with darts is you shouldn't be afraid to kill any dragons on the board if it's efficient, because slowing down their clock actually gives you a lot more windows and opportunities to combo them and kill them. Next I got the 3 red Singed. So this card is probably actually the best card in the matchup. It actually feels super nice to just play this card. It's a straight out 1-for-1 with Rake the Embers, which is another problematic card for Kano. But on top of that, buffing Singed also applies to every instance of the Singed damage. So if you Crucible Singe, it's actually 2 damage to the face and 2 damage to 3 dragons, letting you be able to clear Chromeyes, Calorias, and Ashwings, all for 1 card. And something to be noted is both Singe and darts can be searched off of lessons super well, which makes it very consistent in being able to find multiple of these every game when you're versing Dromar. And then lastly, I just bring in stirs because of the interaction with Singe is absolutely insane. If you can Singe for 5, deal 5 to the face, and kill now even some of the legendary dragons, super high value. But also into Dromar, they don't actually have a lot of AB when you're clearing their dragons. So doing a stir red Aether Spindle, usually you're going to hit him for at least 6 or something like that. And like I said before, if you let the Kano opt 6, that's probably game over after that. So essentially those are the basic packages I have in my deck. I feel like I've rambled on enough about them. If this video gets enough love, I'm happy to go over exactly what I bring in or take out for every single matchup in detail, but that will probably be a whole nother video in itself. But yeah, to wrap things up, just understand Kano is a difficult hero with 0 wiggle room to make mistakes, that being because you start on 30 health as opposed to 40. So it actually will take a long time and a lot of losses to actually learn this hero, since you will make a lot of mistakes with him at first. But if you battle through all that and you just keep focusing on improving and learning from your mistakes, Kano easily becomes the most satisfying hero in the game to play. But hopefully this all helped you guys even a little bit in making your Kano CC deck. If it did, make sure to drop a like and a sub if you haven't already for more Kano content, and drop a comment if you guys got any more questions about Kano. I'll be happy to answer. But for now, I'm outies. Later.